I want to thank everyone so much for joining. My name is Jordan Warsoff. I'm a solutions engineer here at Unitrends. And today we're going to be going through the Unitrends solution and how we can help you achieve a better backup, business continuity, and disaster recovery solution. Let's get started. So to begin, I kind of want to talk about what we've seen as a company are the trends that are occurring in today's industry. First of all, we've really noticed that this is the less is more world. IT today has less time, less money, less downtime, while being faced with more risks, more work, and more projects. In fact, we've seen that IT has become more and more important to the business, but hasn't been given the same allocation of resources to really make it possible to accomplish everything we need to be able to do. For example, the change is drastic. Data is growing 33 times faster than the number of admins, which means each administrator is responsible for more and more while not being given additional resources. And not to mention we're under attack too. 60% of businesses have been attacked by ransomware, and the number is only increasing as it goes year over year. And the downtime is drastically expensive. Over $700 billion has cost North American businesses in, I think, every year alone. So you can see there's a lot of stuff threatening our capabilities, yet we are pertinent to being able to continue our business's needs. One great example of this was Delta Airlines. In August 2016, there was an outage that cost the company $150 million. This was a little over a year ago, but basically that cost was just by the lost revenue, the inefficient workers. People weren't able to actually produce, so you had people sitting there getting paid, not able to work, and the cost to fix. In fact, the average cost of a single data center outage is roughly $730,000. This varies greatly from industry and data size. As you can see, it's not cheap. So we need to find some kind of solution that's able to mitigate these risks, that's able to address these growing needs per admin, and is able to do it efficiently. And that's where I bring up Apple. Now, whether or not you like Apple is totally up for debate. That being said, Apple was the first company that was really able to take the all-in-one approach to consumer electronics. We had Palm Pilot and BlackBerry, but they were very niche products. Apple was able to make it globally accessible by making it an easy to use, no instruction manual, and bringing in every single item. They made internet browsing easier. They made the telephone, the camera, music player, recording, all that stuff combined into one little form factor that made it easy to use was the right approach. So it's not just putting all the pieces together, it's also the usability. And in fact, in our industry, one great example is Nutanix. Nutanix is a hyperconverged storage that replaces your storage, your server, and your hypervisor in one easy-to-use single pane of glass management. So it's super easy to be able to manage, super easy to be able to utilize, and a great approach for if you need to upgrade kind of your data center. And that's why a lot of people are kind of moved towards these things, because people need to be able to do more with less time. And an administrator that's able to administer server, storage, and hypervisor all at once with an easy-to-use product is going to be vital to the success of a department. And that's what you kind of need to look at in almost every solution, especially when it comes to business continuity and disaster recovery. You need a solution that's going to provide no finger pointing, that's less management overhead, it's more flexible, provides more uptime, provides more confidence, and frankly gives more free time to move on to the producing aspects of our position. And that's kind of where Unitrends comes into play. Our whole approach is trying to go from the old world to the new world. Our old world had multiple vendors, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of management. The old world required a lot of effort in setting up and making sure it was working. It had limited continuity, no assurance in your recovery, deployed on Windows, and it had a fragmented customer support experience where you'd have to call different vendors to be able to figure out what went wrong with your backup. In the new world, Unitrends is able to provide a single vendor, one throat to choke. It's less work, you simply rack it, connect it, and you're online and able to perform your backups. It provides a local and cloud continuity with recovery assurance, increased security with a purpose-built backup-hardened Linux, and it's a unified higher customer satisfaction. You can have more confidence in the support team. And that's really the whole point in trying to pursue simplicity. Unitrends is all about how do we be ruthless in making sure we find the most simple solution possible. Instead of having to deal with multiple vendors on the left, let's consolidate into a single vendor and even a single solution on the right. And as we mentioned, the support is key. Unitrends has the best customer satisfaction. It's one call for everything. We pick up within like 4 or 5 rings, and our customer support experience is over 98%. It's the only report that goes out to the entire company. The experience of our customers is the most important point of the company. If our customers are unhappy, that means they're not able to recover, and that means we've failed at our job. And we think it's vital to know how well our support experience is and that our solution is able to support our end users' needs and desires. So let's kind of talk about the Unitrends Catalog. It all begins with our flagship product, the Recovery Series Physical Appliance. This appliance delivers very simple enterprise backup and continuity. It includes the software, it includes the server, and it includes the storage to be able to perform your backups. We're going to go into the specifics about what it can back up, but there's a lot of options for being able to protect. Then we also have our Unitrends backup software. If you have your own hardware or you're running in AWS or Azure, deploy our software at that location and then perform all the backups. You bring the hardware to the table, we'll bring the software. You'll still get the same support call for the software piece. You're just responsible now for the compute and the storage. And it's the same workload, the same capabilities as our physical appliance. Unitrends also has 2 other products that we won't be talking to in depth in this presentation, but if you're interested, please reach out. We've got plenty of options on our website or individuals to talk to you about these. Well, the first one is our Office 365 backup. Unitrends can do an automatic backup of your Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive in Office 365 and provided unlimited retention. We do this with a cloud-to-cloud backup system that's going to run, and you'll be able to recover individual emails in minutes. And you'll be able to find them super easily with all sorts of filtering and ease of use. The other product we have is the Boomerang. Unitrends can take VMware, and it's a low-cost disaster recovery solution, to take your VMware virtual machines and send them to AWS or Azure. Once they're there, you can institute a failover where we'll spin up those VMs in those cloud targets, and then once they're up, you can use them, and if you're ready to fail back and bring it back to your local site, you can boomerang. You can literally send them out and then take them back and bring them back as local VMware VMs. It's great for cloud bursting. It's great for disaster recovery. There's all sorts of options that may come into play that would be useful to be able to utilize. Let's talk about the Unitrends solution as a whole and kind of where Unitrends fits. Unitrends begins by deploying our virtual appliance on some kind of hypervisor, whether it's VMware, Hyper-V, or Citrix Xen server, or deploying the physical appliance. Give it an IP address, and then from there, it's as easy as being able to kind of set up and recover the IP. This is what the interface looks like. As you can see, I've got a dashboard that's telling me any errors, what's being backed up, what isn't, my speeds. I got some recovery assurance information, any jobs that we're running, storage utilization, replication going on is all available right here at this easy to use interface. Once I've deployed the Unitrends appliance, I can simply come to the Configure tab, and I'm going to be able to view the storage, any network information I need to adjust, any integration with ConnectWise we can help as well. And then I can also start adding the servers or virtual machine hosts that I want to start protecting here. I simply come to Add, select the asset, the host, the NAS, or even a Cisco UCS manager where we can back up your system storage profiles so it's easier in case something happens to your UCS environment. Once I've added the server, it's as easy as adding in the credentials and hitting save. That will show up, and then we can begin selecting backups of those things we want to protect. Unitrends has a wide array of things we can protect. We protect over 200 different operating systems, applications, or hypervisors. We can protect physical servers, virtual machines, NAS devices, and all sorts of applications. The backups are performed and deduplicated inline and then compressed after that process. This means you get the most efficient process for the backup. The nice thing too is Unitrends also can do incremental forever, where Unitrends will do one full and then will only do incremental backups after that point. This means that you get the fastest and smallest backup window and let the Unitrends appliance take on the work of having to manage the backup, synthesize the full, and everything like that. Once the backups are done, recovery is super easy. I can browse for an individual file and recover a file to any location. I can recover a whole virtual machine back to another host or the same host. I can recover a point in time in a SQL log, or I can even recover files from a NAS. All sorts of options are available, and this is just barely scratching the surface. Let's go ahead and take a look at how easy it is to be able to set up these things. So first, I want to set up a backup job. I'm going to come here to the Jobs tab, go to the Job Manager, and I'm going to create a job. Here I can select a backup copy, or a data copy access. To start, we're going to go over backup jobs. From here, I select a name. So let's say this is my test backup job. And I select what I want to back up, whether it's an agent-based asset, VMware, Hyper-V, all sorts of different options we have to protect. Let's start with VMware. From here, I can see my host, and I can go in and I can select which VMs I want to include as a part of this backup. So let's do those, this piece, and maybe that one there. I can then edit which virtual disks I want to protect. I believe in the case of all of these, I've only got one virtual disk. Here's an example. So I can choose not to snapshot that virtual disk, hit save, automatically include new ones if I want to, and go on to the next one. Here's where I set up my schedule. I can set up how often I want to run the backups. Incremental forever is enabled by default. I can also select folds and incrementals, folds and differentials, or create my own custom. I set up when I want it to start, when I want to run the backups, or even do more frequently. Let's say I want to do these throughout the day. I could do 6 a.m. and then have it run every 4 hours until, let's say, 9 p.m. And just like that, that backup will run and I'll have all those backups available. Alternatively, if I want something a little more customized, I can come to the custom view and I can build out my own calendar where I can drag and drop when I want to run my fulls, incrementals, or even differentials. And the process is just as easy for one of our other types of assets. Let's say I want to do a file level backup. I can select and only back up specific inclusion lists or exclusion lists, say only back up certain drives or directories or exclude certain drives or directories. And then from there, set up the same exact schedule options, incremental forever by default, or I can customize and add and adjust my own. The third option is also with our applications. Let's say SQL. I can come in here, select which database instances I want to back up, my temp one, and this lab one. And from here, I select fulls and differentials, fulls and transaction logs, whatever I want to be able to do. I can then use these to recover to specific points. So let's say I want to do fulls every day, overnight, and I want to run those transaction log backups throughout the day. That's where I could set this up here, 7 a.m., run every 2 hours until, let's say, 10, and hit save. And that's going to run, and I'll have those transaction log backups, which I can then recover at a point in time, which I'll show you in a second. Once I hit save, that job is created, and it's scheduled to run. Here in the Jobs tab, I can see when the next time it's going to run and when it was last run. Looks like this VMware backup ran yesterday, or I guess this morning at 2:30 a.m. It's going to run again at 2:30 a.m. tomorrow. If I want to check out how well my things have been backed up, I can come here to the Protect tab. Click here, and you can view the status of your backups. Green check mark means everything was good. Yellow exclamation is a warning. And I can come here and hit Details, and it can tell me what went wrong. So here's my warning. It sounded like my synthesis wasn't successful. So it looked like there were something issues. So the synthetic was okay, but there's some warning about the synthesis. So it was probably a previous backup that was unsuccessful or had some issue. It's kind of great to be able to find all this info right at your fingertips. Here, for example, is another incremental. It sounded like there was the application was backed up correctly. You can kind of go through and find this information. If there's anything else you needed, you can go ahead and take this to support, and we'll be able to figure out what went wrong. So it sounds like the client-side compression was having an issue with this one. Let's say that the scheduling and everything is a little too much for you and you want to start doing your backups based around a policy. Unitrends can schedule our backups on an SLA policy. Similar approach to what you saw before, where you can select which backups you want to do. I can check off certain VMs or resource groups. Same thing with the virtual disks. And then from here, instead of setting up the schedule, I set up my RPO, how the oldest I want the data to be, and then set up what window I wanted to perform the backups. I can then choose to replicate the data offsite or copy it to some kind of cold backup copy target, some kind of local long-term retention or more economical offsite retention. I can choose how long to keep the backups over here if that's important. Hit save. Automatically, I'm going to create those schedules for me. It's just another way to be able to adjust and utilize your environment to kind of adjust to your needs. So I can set up my backup, and rather than having to do the schedules, I can use the SLA policy and do a policy-based schedule instead and let Unitrends automate that for me. It's really cool and really easy to be able to do that. Okay, so let's assume I've got my backups. I've been able to back everything up. The most important part about backups is being able to recover. I come here to the Recover tab, and here I'm going to get all the options of my backups from the last week. I can open up any of these options. Let's say this snapshot of my DC. And here I can see I have a week's worth. I've run one a day, and I can see when it was run. I can check off which one I want to recover, and you'll notice I'll have the Recover Files option. I can recover the whole VM, or I can do a VM instant recovery. Let's start with recovering a file. From here, I simply confirm that I want to create the file recovery object. And what this is going to do is it's going to mount and load the VM's directory right under the Unitrends. No need to use a host, no need to use anything else. Unitrends can do this all from the back end, and then we're going to be able to access it and recover and browse the individual files that are within that virtual machine. It's a great way to be able to recover the pieces you need and be able to grab whatever the information that you may have on that machine. So here, for example, is my VM. I'm going to go ahead and browse what's in there. And like that, I have the different virtual disks, and I can find the specific data that I want from within here. Let's say these applications want to be recovered, or there's something else. I can get that and download it. I've already got those files. You notice I didn't have to spin up the VM or anything like that. It's all taken care of right from your backup appliance, which is how it should be. Your backup should be focused on the backup, and you shouldn't have to involve your recovery or your production to be able to do these basic tasks. Let's take another example. Let's say I want to spin up my SQL Server. If I need to spin that up quickly, I can do a standard recovery, or I can do a VM instant recovery. From here, all I need to do is select a host, a resource pool if needed, let's say my recovery assurance, and a data store. I got quite a bit free there. From here, I can choose to run it in audit mode where it won't actually attach it to a network, so I can audit and make sure the VM works, or I can run it in a live mode as I'm doing now. You simply hit save, and it's going to automatically kick off the VM recovery process. It's going to send the VM to the host, move it to the storage using storage vMotion, but spin it up immediately. You'll have a VM up and running in less than 5 minutes, but migrating in the background. It's a great way to have a disaster recovery plan and utilize this kind of tool and this functionality, our VMware Instant Recovery, in case of those disasters. You can also utilize a standard recovery, which doesn't utilize storage vMotion, or live migration for Hyper-V. And you simply come in here, select the info you need, and it's going to simply migrate it to this storage and then spin it up once the migration is complete. Takes a little bit longer, but you're not running off of your backup hardware. You're running the whole time off of your production hardware. It's all about the RTO needs that you have. If you need to get that and access the VM quickly, utilize the instant recovery. If you're okay with a lower RTO, then go ahead, or a higher RTO, then go ahead and do a standard recovery. Similar options apply for our applications. Let's say I've got Exchange. If you still have Exchange locally, I can recover individual emails within the Exchange, or I can recover the whole database. Come here, select the target Exchange server you want to use, which asset you want to use within it. You can choose a recovery database, sending it back to the original location, and then simply run the recovery. Unitrends is going to take care of the rest. We're going to send it over, we're going to utilize the credentials with the Exchange server, and we're all set to recover. So here's the Exchange server, the one I can use. I don't believe we have another one to utilize. Oh, we could potentially recover if we had another one of these was an Exchange server. Set up the directory, and you're going to recover that EDB back to that target location. So, a lot of stuff we just went over. We talked about how we can protect your physical servers, your virtual servers, NAS devices, applications. Talked about how easy it is to recover all the pieces from that. And that's great. You've seen the instant recovery, how we can recover super quickly, and you've seen how we can do file level recovery, probably the more common thing, recovering an individual email, individual file, whatever the case may be. But that's not everything. As we know, disaster recovery needs to be able to handle all sorts of different disasters. And that's where Unitrends can help too. We will take your backups and we can copy those backups to different targets. Whether those are local targets, a kind of cold target, what we call it, where you can copy a backup to a NAS, to a SAN, to a tape drive, even removable hard drives. Or we do a backup copy to a hot target where we're replicating over the WAN to either a secondary site where we have another Unitrends appliance that can receive the replication, or you can even send it to the Unitrends Forever Cloud, where we can keep that data and we can recover those pieces as needed. With our local backup copies, or backup copies to cold targets, it's basically a long-term offline retention option. We copy the backups to these targets, and you can import these to any Unitrends appliance and recover the data easily. These can optionally be encrypted, so that way in case it falls in the wrong hands, they're not going to be able to recover it without your encryption key. We use AES 256 encryption, so you have the federal standard for securing your data. If you're going a backup copy to hot target, some kind of replication, you can go to your own secondary target, and this can go from a physical appliance to a virtual appliance, physical to physical, virtual to virtual, all the options are there. You can then test your DR capabilities using our recovery assurance, whether that is a local recovery assurance where you're doing it when you took the initial backups or at the secondary site. We'll spin up those machines and test and verify that they can recover in an emergency scenario. Alternatively, if you don't want to pay for the costs, the property, the hours, the electricity, the cooling, and the frankly effort that goes into having a secondary location, Unitrends can be that secondary location. Simply by pricing out how big your initial servers are that you want to send to us, Unitrends will provide unlimited storage to give you all sorts of different long-term retention options in our cloud. We can provide as short as 90-day retention by keeping the last 7 dailies, 4 weeklies, and 3 monthlies, or all the way up to infinite, where we'll do 7 dailies, 4 weeklies, 12 monthlies, and infinite yearlies. We'll replicate that data and we'll keep it, and you can recover an individual file from the appliance with just a few clicks. So instead of having to maintain that long term with hard drives or tape, just send it to us and you can recover that stuff from our cloud easily. Not to mention, we also have DR as a service where we can spin up your VMware or Hyper-V virtual machines, and we can then use those and use them in our environment while we're seeding our data. With all Unitrends Cloud customers, if you have a failure locally, Unitrends will seed and ship you an appliance as soon as possible. So if you have a appliance on site and it is flooded and you lose all of your source servers and your backup, you'll call Unitrends, we'll start seeding an appliance immediately, ship it to you with overnight shipping, and you'll have an appliance back in your hands in no time, where you'll have all your backups seeded onto it and beginning to recover. As you can imagine, other solutions may require you to have to download it over the internet. We don't do that. We're going to seed it to you and ship it to you because that's going to be faster than you would be able to download it over the networks, over the internet speeds. So a lot of capabilities, and you can combine that with our DR as a service. You have a lot of options when it comes to your business continuity and even specifically your disaster recovery needs. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like in our interface. So we've talked about the instant recovery pieces, but we want to copy our backup somewhere else. We come to the Jobs tab, and we're going to go ahead and do a backup copy job. From here, you select which assets you want to include. So you can do all your Oracle, your Hyper-V machines, even your file server. From here, these are going to take your backups and we're going to send them to a target. Let's say we're going to send them to some kind of local NAS. This is what it would look like. I can choose what backup types, if I want to encrypt them, how long I want to keep them, what to do if I run out of space, and how often to do it. Every day seems a little excessive for me. I'm going to set it for once a week on, let's say, Friday. And there, Friday at 3 a.m., maybe 9 p.m. makes sense after everyone's gone home. It's it's going to run this archive. It's going to send all of the fulls and the most recent fulls to that target from the Friday. Simple. I can test it to make sure I have enough space on the target, hit save, and that's going to be another job that's created. This is a backup copy to a cold target. The same would be for tape, for a NAS, for a LUN on a SAN, for even those removable hard drives with our Unitrends RxDA. Alternatively, if I want to go backup copy to hot target, you'll notice all this stuff kind of goes away. This is because the scheduling occurs as soon as the backup's complete. What does that mean? That means if I'm doing a backup on these things, I'm going to immediately kick off a replication job. This means I'm going to start sending the copy of that backup to the secondary target immediately. Now, you may be worried about using up all your network bandwidth. Don't fear. You can come over to the Configure tab and choose how much bandwidth to utilize at any given time by simply coming to Appliances, Backup Copy Targets, and then Configure Bandwidth. You set up your connection speed. So we've got about 15 megabit per second up. And I set up how much I want to throttle it. So let's say 30% during working hours. The rest of the time will be 100%. I can then add if I want to adjust. Let's say during weekends, I actually run some network testing, and I don't want this to interfere. So I can say on Saturday during 9 a.m. to noon, don't run. I think that's noon. Yeah. 9 a.m. to noon, throttle down to 50%. Rest of the time, I can use 100% of the network bandwidth. So that way you don't clog your pipe, and you can kind of control what makes the most sense for your environment. And that's really what this is able to provide. That's just one option. Something else we talked about. So this is great to getting your data off-site, but how do I be able to recover it? You can actually recover an individual file that's been replicated and you've had in long term by simply coming here to the filter, including backup copies to hot targets, and filtering it out. What this is going to do is it's going to search not only for backups I have locally, but for backups I have at my replication target. Let's see what I've got. So here I've got something from June. All the purple ones are replicated backups. Let me see if I can find. I believe my file server's got some old stuff on there. So here's my snapshots. I can go back, let's see, we can go back all the way to March. And here I can recover that whole VM. I can recover an individual file. And this is all off-site. This backup is not local, so it's super easy to be able to recover these pieces and use them. It's kind of nice having that. So I can go in, see what old backups I have, and recover the ones that I need. On top of that, just because I can recover it doesn't mean I'm good enough. Unitrends actually has a built-in capability, an Enterprise Plus feature, where we can actually test your backups for you. It's called Recovery Assurance using our data copy access. From here, you select which backups you've backed up you want to test. So I'm going to choose these few. And then you set up your tests for them. You give it a RTO and RPO goal. So here this says, I want it recovered within 4 hours, and I don't want the data older than 24 hours. I can do any scripts, say how long I want to keep it, and any suffix I want to append when I'm running these tests. And then from here, I set up a schedule. How often do I want to test it? Let's say once a week on Saturday. Sounds fine. I can also on-demand recover it and use this for orchestration or use this for creating that schedule. From here, I've got all these different jobs, and I can see these are all the different assets. If I want to test a specific functionality, I can do so. So here, for example, this server, I can actually test. I could test all sorts of different options. I have Exchange services, Windows services, SQL queries. I can even build my own scripts using PowerShell. A ton of different options. So this tells me that not only am I able to back up, not only was the data transfer good, but the application will work in those emergency scenarios. I can add that test, give it a priority, hit save, and I'm going to make sure to test that. We also have Linux integration too, where I can test specific Linux features, a SQL query, Oracle, Linux processes, or even your own, again, custom script where you can go in and test to make sure applications are running. You can get specific information from an intranet site. It's able to ping out whatever you may need to do. You can do that right from within here. Give it the host IP, hit add, and that is now a test, and it will be able to tell you your compliance with your recovery needs. This is a huge deal. Being able to automate this process means all those nights and weekends you've spent testing your recovery, testing your backups, you don't have to do anymore. back in 2014, I believe, when the VMware CBT bug ruined everyone's backups because the CBT actually was corrupting the production and the backups. This tool was able to save tons of people because they saw that their backups were not running successfully. They were able to adjust their backups and be able to circumvent the issue that was plaguing them so that they had successful backups and could recover in those disaster scenarios. None of our competitors could do that at the time, and we were the only ones who were able to protect our customers from basically a 0-day bug. And that's kind of cool to be able to tout yourself doing that, and a great feature to kind of give yourself that additional layer of protection. So that's a lot we've gone over. We've seen what we can back up, we've seen how we can protect it, we've seen how easy it is to get the data off-site, and we've seen everything we can do to ensure our recoverability. That's a lot. But you notice that it's really easy to use. It's a couple clicks, it's informative, and it's intuitive. What do I want to do? I want to recover. I'm going to go to the Recover tab. Do I want to set up a new job? I'm going to go to the Jobs tab. We provide a lot of capabilities for introduction. We didn't even have time to get into all the other fun stuff, such as our ransomware detection, where we can use machine learning to see if a backup looks out of the ordinary, and we can flag that as potentially being infected, giving you early a warning if something's being infected with ransomware, so you can stop it before it spreads too much or much more. We also are constantly updating and working with our customers to find what the next feature could be. In the near future, we're hoping to integrate with more and more different hypervisors and solutions, such as integrated storage platforms, and we're going to be able to even provide it in an easier and sensible way to be able to do that, to give you kind of that ease of mind, that less effort, and that higher capability, and what you need to be able to do to ensure your business continuity. And you don't have to take my word for it. We've been in business for a long time. We have a ton of customers that have been super happy with Unitrends. You can just hear Scott, for example, seeing no backup failures was great, but even if there was, it's able to save his butt. Frankly, being able to back up and recover is the safety net. It's the safety harness that we all use as the trapeze artists in IT. We're going to mess up. We need to make sure we have some kind of solution that's able to save our buns should something happen. And Unitrends is able to do that. Not only is it a safety harness, but it's really easy to be able to put on. Because if you have a safety feature, but it's not easy to use, people may overlook it or not use it correctly. Unitrends believes in simplicity and support. We want to make sure you're able to recover no matter what happens and able to do it as easy as possible. And you don't have to take me or even Scott's word for it. Go ahead and check out Ransomware and Unitrends. So many customers, when ransomware was starting, were getting infected. Unitrends has been able to help them recover simply through good, productive backups and our recovery that is dependable. And even using recovery assurance, you can know exactly how long the recovery is going to take. In fact, you actually get a report. I can come here into my Reports tab. We have a ton of different options with backup, recovery, copying your backups, storage. But our compliance report can tell you how close you are to achieving your different RTO and RPO objectives and how long the recovery takes. Here, for example, with this job, I said I want an RTO of 4 hours, and I'm able to do it in 6 minutes. And here I can even see the details of what servers were included, and even if there were any tests or anything like that, they would show up there and let me know their status too. The reports can extend to all sorts of different things, like your failure reports, what you're actually protecting. I can see the different servers, what isn't, any warnings that have happened, all that at my fingertips. And if coming to the appliance is too much of an effort for you, don't worry. We'll email you your backup status. We'll email you your replication status, and any alerts and failures that come up, we'll send those to you as soon as possible, so you know if there's something going wrong with your backups, you'll have an email letting you know. So a lot of stuff. So in summary, what does Unitrends provide? We provide one vendor where you're not going to have finger pointing. You'll know exactly who to call. We're going to be able to help you out. It's less work. It's easy to set up. It's easy to utilize. You rack it, you connect it, you give it an IP, and you go. We provide local backup options as well as cloud continuity with our cloud, your cloud. Everyone has a cloud, and we're going to be able to integrate and send your data to that. And we can test it utilizing recovery assurance to ensure that your backups were taken successfully and you can recover. It's also a secure platform. We're built on a secure, hardened Linux platform, which has to this date has not been infected with ransomware. We have yet to see a Unitrends appliance that's been infected with ransomware. We're not vulnerable like all the Windows installations are, and we provide that unified and higher customer satisfaction experience. So with that, I want to encourage you to follow us on any of the social medias. We're constantly posting giveaways and stuff to Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We are constantly coming out with videos with new features, new updates, keep you informed of what Unitrends is doing. So with that, I want to use the last few minutes to answer a few questions. Again, feel free to enter them into the chat box. We can answer questions there as well. So the first question I have, what are your support options for international customers? We're based out of London, and we'd like to know what options we have for calling in. It's a great question. Unitrends has a 24/7 by 365 or 366 during a leap year support environment. You call in at any time, and we have international toll-free numbers. You're going to be talking to a Unitrends person that's been trained, that is located with our development team, and is only a Unitrends employee. You're not going to be calling into call centers. You're not going to be calling into third-party solutions or anything like that. Everything is in-house. Our support team, we dedicate ourselves to ensuring your support experience is great. If it's not, our CTO is going to see about that and find ways to fix it. We're constantly working to make sure that we give the highest tier and highest level support possible. And that's why 24/7 by 365 comes standard on all of our solutions, because backups don't sleep, recovery doesn't sleep, disaster doesn't sleep. So why should you only have a 9x5 solution? You need to be able to come up at any time whenever disaster should strike. And you should have the support to be able to do that. I got another, next question. Question is, what is your support for Linux? Do you support CentOS 5 backups? So yes, we have a wide array of operating system backups. In fact, I actually do have my, here is our compatibility matrix. We back up over 200 different operating systems, and you can see we go back to Windows NT 2000. We don't end of life our support for any operating system because you never know when that's vital to someone's business. So you can come here, you can see all the different Windows versions, the Linux versions, Oracle. Here you're asking about CentOS 5. Got Linux / here we got CentOS 5, 6, and 7. We also have Oracle Linux, Debian, iSeries, NetWare, Solaris Spark, Solaris Intel, HPUX, the list goes on. And we even have bare metal capabilities with Mac OS. So a lot of options to ensure that you can protect your entire environment. All right, we got time for one more question. The question is asking, how can I spin up my VMs? And a quick thing, I'm protecting Zen server, and I want to know how I can recover the virtual machines. So great question. So with Zen server, we can actually back up those Zen server VMs with a snapshot. We can take that snapshot, back it up, and then we can actually restore that back to your Zen server hosts. Alternatively, we can also deploy agents with your Zen server and back up the files, use those, and if it's a Windows machine, we can even use Windows Instant Recovery to do a V2V recovery, where we can recover from your Zen server environment into VMware Hyper-V if you happen to have that sitting around as well. So a lot of flexibility and a lot of options. All right, so with that, I don't want to stop all the questions. If you have any more, please enter them into the chat box. I'll be sure to get to more of those. But other than that, I'll give you back those 10 to 15 minutes of your day. And again, thank you so much. I've been Jordan with Unitrends. Hopefully you've been able to see what Unitrends can do for you and how we can potentially provide a better recovery platform to ensure your business continuity. Thank you so much again for your interest in Unitrends. We really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day, and someone will be following up with each and every one of you with any other questions you may have, or if you're interested in trying out Unitrends for yourself, we have a bunch of free trials available on our website, or we can work someone with you to help you trial it yourself. Thank you so much again. Look forward to hearing from every one of you soon. Take care. Have a great day.